Opened in 1870 and considered the second oldest operating amusement park in the United States, we're off to Sandusky, Ohio, and the shores of Lake Erie to Cedar Point. Hey folks, welcome to the Down the Road Travel Channel. My name is Will Van Winkle. Today we're off to the roller coaster capital of the world, Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. With 16 different coasters, Cedar Point claims that title along with Kennywood in Pennsylvania, which only has 8. Obviously there's a clear winner when it comes to the number, but I'm not sure who wins for the size of the coasters. Of course, Magic Mountain in California has 20, Energylandia in Poland has 19, Canada's Wonderland has 17, so I'm not sure how Cedar Point gets that title at all. To be clear though, Disney World's Magic Kingdom in Florida, it has 5 or 6 coasters depending on what you're counting as a coaster. So if you're looking for a thrill not too far from home, Cedar Point may be a good choice for you. Also part of the Cedar Fair group, Cedar Point is less than 4 hours from Kings Island. So when we got our all park season passes, we decided it was close enough to visit on our summer vacation. Now personally, I'm not into thrill coasters. I prefer theming to liven up the adventure rather than neck-breaking speeds, dives, turns, loops, and other stomach-churning moments. Back in 2023, November of 2023, Six Flags and Cedar Fair announced a merger. So what does this mean? Absolutely nothing. That's actually a very good question. As of summer 2024, there hasn't been much announced. Now, a couple weeks ago, they did make an announcement that everything is official. The Department of Justice approved the merger, and the stock has merged. So if you own stock in, say, Six Flags, you'll notice that the stock symbol has changed from 6, S-I-X, to FUN, F-U-N, which used to be Cedar Fair's stock number, or stock call sign, whatever you want to call it, stock name. But it's operating under the Six Flags name, but using the Cedar Fair stock information. So that is one adjustment that some people may need to make. The other adjustment, there's nothing. The group has now 42 parks and 9 resorts spanning 17 states, Canada, and Mexico. Based on that statement of fact that both Six Flags and Cedar Fair parks offer all parks passes, somewhere down the line, I assume that's going to merge and become a single season pass and a single all parks pass. That's not happening in 2024. Don't get your hopes up. If you bought Cedar Fair, you have those 17 parks to choose from. If you bought Six Flags, you have the, 25 parks to choose from. When it's all fully integrated, maybe we'll see the ability to do 42 parks on one season pass if you have the means to do so. If you do have the means, that means you could work, say you work remotely, you're retired, or you're a full-time RVer doing odd jobs or what have you to earn money. You could visit their parks from coast to coast throughout most of 2025, assuming they merge the park passes. And you could basically eat for free, stay, well, not stay for free, because obviously you've got to pay for your accommodations. But yeah, you could go from coast to coast, Canada and Mexico, all on one season pass, and that would be a very amazing deal. We'll let you know if we find anything else out about that. Now, this does seem like the perfect time to remind you to check out our online store, maybe buy a few things, subscribe, like, comment, and share, and even check out other videos so that I can retire early and travel the country in my RV, visiting every theme park, amusement park, state and national park, and roadside attraction that I can find to bring you more information. Please, this is one of the things that you can get. Our brand new Down the Road Travel Channel t-shirt, and there's other things as well. So, enough begging, enough joking, enough merger news. Let's talk about the park. As I mentioned in the Kings Island video, we have the All Parks Pass dining plan and drink plan. And of course, you can get more information on that on the Kings Island video or going directly to Kings Island, Cedar Fair, or the individual park web pages. We decided to make our summer vacation this year a little bit further north, further away from the heat and humidity of the Gulf Coast, not to mention the more than active hurricane season, the more active than normal hurricane season. And someplace we could bring the dog. Kings Island is the closer of the two parks, but Cedar Point wasn't much further from there, so we did do both. Keep in mind, pets are allowed at the campgrounds with certain stipulations, but not necessarily at the resorts. And at the campgrounds, obviously, if you're using a cabin, you need to double check on that because most cabins are not allowed. Cedar Point's regular operating season is from early May through Labor Day in September, then runs on a weekend-only schedule until their Halloween weekend event in October. Aside from roller coasters, Cedar Point offers a 1-mile stretch of beach on Lake Erie, an outdoor water park called Cedar Point Shores, an indoor water park known as Castaway Bay, which I did not see that anywhere, 2 marinas, and Cedar Point Sports Center, their outdoor sports complex. So even if you aren't the biggest roller coaster fan like me, there's bound to be something for you to do. From 1997 to 2013, Cedar Point was awarded Best Theme Park Awards by Amusement Today. Several of its buildings are on the National Register of Historic Places, and in 2020, the park celebrated its 150-year anniversary. But the celebration was postponed until 2021 due to, I don't know, some kind of global pandemic or something. Like most of the parks, there is a family-friendly dress code. They have free Wi-Fi that I never could connect to. Outside food or drink is not allowed, just like at Kings Island. Most of the Cedar Fair group, I'm assuming, is going to be the same way. Cedar Point has a 1-hour early entry for resort guests. Summer hours are from 10 to 10 for Cedar Point and 10 to 7 for Cedar Point Shores. 10 to 11 on select days in July and August, but reverts to a weekend schedule with varying hours starting in September and October, so make sure you check their webpage before planning your trip. Also note there are no holiday events in December, unlike Kings Island and possibly other Cedar Fair group parks, but like most other Cedar Fair parks, it is cashless. So if you plan on cutting the kids loose to enjoy some thrill rides or kickback and enjoy some of the lazier attractions on your own, like we did, make sure to get them a preloaded card wherever you buy gift cards or at the cash card kiosks in the park. See website for fee details on those cards, or use Apple or Google Pay where accepted. They do have little kiosks. You go in, you put cash in there, and they'll spit out a card at you. It does cost a little bit. I have no idea how much. We had credit cards and dining plans and drink plans, so we didn't really need any extra cash while we were at the park. We stayed at Lighthouse Point. Now, this is a campground at Cedar Point, which gives us early entry, and we use this exactly one time. So let me explain that. We arrived about 5:30 p.m., set up camp, and then hit the park for dinner because we have the dining pass, so why not? We ate at Coaster's Diner, but I'll get into food later in my Cedar Point's Eats video. After dinner, we hit a couple of rides, and the teens hung out a little bit longer and did a few more rides while Dana and I began to explore the campground and do laundry. Yes, we were living on the edge, people. So the next day, we hit early entry. And by about 2 p.m., the teens had done everything they wanted to do and were kind of over the whole park, having just spent 3 days at Kings Island. Now, Kings Island was a little bit different because everything kept closing, and so they weren't able to ride all the rides they wanted to ride. We had to keep going back to find those. Cedar Point, if it was too windy or rainy, they would close the rides down, but they didn't close the rides quite as often as Kings Island. We're thinking that may be a staffing issue. Not really sure why they did it as much as they did in Kings Island, but Cedar Point, yes, they did close. No, not quite as often. So by 2 p.m., the second day there, the kids were done. The rest of the time at Cedar Point was just checking out different dining options and trying to drag the kids out of the RV. While Cedar Point boasts 364 acres, I believe this is the entire complex. Maybe it's including the campground, amusement park, beach, hotel, possibly even parking lot, water park. Not real sure what all's included in that number because Epcot is listed as 305 acres for just the park, and it takes much longer to get around Epcot. So I'm thinking with Cedar Point, 364 acres is including other things, not just in Cedar Point amusement park itself, but maybe Cedar Point Shores, maybe the beach, maybe the campground. I'm not really sure what all's included in that number. It was not so small that it was disappointing, however. And I have no way to confirm any of this. Maybe there were parts we didn't see, but we did make our way through Kitty Kingdom, Planet Snoopy, Camp Snoopy, the petting zoo. No animals escaped while we were there. The week before, I think it was a camel got out, and something else got out a couple days later. So we had no idea there was even a petting zoo there until we saw that news. So no animals escaped, and it was just an uneventful trip as far as wild animals are concerned. And of course, we went for some of the roller coasters. The train only has 2 stops, and the Sky Ride, which takes you maybe, I said, probably about 2,000 feet straight. So there has to be more included in the acreage than what the park itself offers. If you know what all is included, let me know in the comments below, because I am very curious on this one. We may end up going back up there at some point because we do have those season passes. This park has 4 entrances, which also gives you the impression that this is a very, very, very large park. The main entrance, there is the resort guest Cedar Point Shore entrance. Not sure the actual name of this one. Everybody had a different name for it. There's the marina entrance and the beach/boardwalk entrance as well. Being guests at Lighthouse Point, we used the resort guest entrance most of the time, but we did use each at one point just to see what they were all like and, you know, who has more congestion and which ones were easier to get through. Marina and boardwalk were the easiest ones to get into. The resort guest line in the morning was a little crowded, early entry. And then the main entrance was very, very crowded. But that's on the parking lot, so that's kind of what we expected. The first ride we encountered was Magnum. This 2-minute and 45-second coaster has heights of 205 feet, speeds of 72 miles per hour. It was once the tallest, steepest roller coaster and even made its way into the Guinness Book of World Records. On a clear day, they say you can see Canada over the horizon, and it does run through the water park, Cedar Point Shores, but you need to be at least 48 inches tall to ride it. I looked at that, and then I looked at most of these rides, and a lot of them have these really steep, almost vertical drops. So I said, hell no, quite often. Next on the agenda was Corkscrew. 2,050 feet long, not high. 48 miles an hour, 2-minute duration. Corkscrew was the first roller coaster to take you through 3 inversions. Also a 48-inch height requirement, and this one takes you so close to the theme park below that I saw people ducking as they passed under it, myself included. There's a Ferris wheel. And, you know, some carnival-type rides, including the Wild Mouse. You must be 48 inches tall to ride alone, or 42 inches with accompaniment. This 1-minute, 10-second ride overlooks Lake Erie, but you will spin so fast you hardly have time to see the lake. Top speed of 35 miles an hour, top height of 52 feet. You may want to make sure you didn't just eat before getting on this one. If you are familiar with Mousetrap that you will see at a lot of carnivals, this one spins more than that. Now, I have seen a variation of this at carnivals, but it did not spin anywhere near as quickly as the one at Cedar Point. And I'm thinking maybe because it's stationary, they don't have to take it apart and put it back together all the time. I'm thinking maybe it does move a little bit quicker than what you would find at a carnival or something like that that is mobile and moves from place to place. Close to the main gate, you're going to find the appropriately named Gatekeeper. Appropriately named because it is close to the main gate. It's 67 miles an hour, 170 foot height, 2-minute duration, holds the record for the highest inversion. This wing coaster dives, twists, turns, and inverts riders between 52 inches and 78 inches maximum. Again, it's another one of those, no. If you're looking for thrill rides, Cedar Point is probably the place to go. Millennium Force will thrill you with a 310-foot height. 310 feet. That is tall. Top speeds of 93 miles an hour for 2 minutes. opened in 2000, is another record-setting coaster in Cedar Point for riders between 48 inches and 78 inches tall. Hop the train or walk through the Frontier, complete with petting zoo. Again, no animals escaped this time. To Maverick. Next to the farmhouse, which, by the way, is probably the best food in the park, Maverick takes riders between 52 inches and 78 inches on twists, corkscrews, and tunnels to the steepest angle in all of Cedar Point, a 95-degree angle. Up to 70 miles an hour within 3 seconds of a launch, up to 105 feet for a duration of 2.5 minutes. These are some serious coasters, people. Steel Vengeance, or as I like to call it, the butt pucker, is a hybrid coaster which reaches heights of 205 feet. By the way, we were told by Dana's daughter that she could see the RV from the top of the hill, which isn't surprising because we could see it from the RV. There's a 200-foot drop, at a 90-degree angle, 2.5 minutes long, 5,740-foot long ride with a top speed of 74 miles an hour. You must be at least 52 inches tall to ride and may not even bring loose items in the line. In fact, they are so serious about this, they have metal detectors at the front of the line and lockers for you to use. Are the lockers free? No. Does that make sense? No. To bring things down a bit, let's look at the suspended coaster Iron Dragon. Now, this brought back memories for me when I was growing up in Houston. There was a place called Astroworld, a little amusement park that we had there, owned by Six Flags. The ride was called Accelerate, and it's pretty much Iron Dragon is pretty much the exact same thing as what that was. It's only 40 miles an hour. There are no inversions or steep drops. Highest point is 76 feet. There is still a 48-inch height requirement, but this one works well for the less adventurous types, like myself. Cedar Creek Mine Ride. Now, this is over in the Frontier area. It has a 48-inch height requirement. It's a 40-mile-an-hour, 2-minute, and 50-second ride. It's a hybrid coaster. So the wood frame was steel tubing for the track to give a smoother ride. I was told it was boring by the duo that had just ridden Steel Vengeance. Yeah. I don't think much can measure up to that. But they tried it. They didn't like it. I wanted to go on it, but Dana's back was hurting, and being a wooden coaster, we didn't want to chance it, so we stayed off of it. The oldest coaster in the park is Blue Street. There's a 48-inch height requirement to ride the 60-year-old coaster that opened in 1964. It provides a classic wooden coaster with speeds reaching 40 miles an hour. If you're in a racing mood, head over to Gemini, or, see if the red or blue car wins. The twin cars run on parallel tracks up to 60 miles an hour for 2 minutes and 40 seconds, reaching heights of 125 feet. Guests at least 48 inches tall have been riding this since 1978. Billed as a floorless coaster, Rougarou hosts riders between 54 inches and 78 inches at speeds of 60 miles an hour, heading up to 145 feet high for 2 minutes and 30 seconds with drops of 137 feet through a 119-foot vertical loop. I don't even know what that means. I don't think I want to know what that means. It does not sound pleasant to me. Again, if you're a thrill seeker, this is the park to go to. Raptor will send you down 3,790 feet of track at 57 miles an hour into a 100-foot vertical loop, inverted corkscrews, a zero-gravity roll, and a total of 6 inversions as long as you're at least 54 inches tall. The tallest, fastest dive coaster in the United States, Valravn, I think is pronounced. It reaches heights of 225 feet. Speeds of 75 miles an hour, sending riders 52 inches and taller through a 90-degree drop, 270-degree roll, and more. They are serious about these coasters. There are, of course, water rides, which all of us skipped because the weather turned, and the one day they were open due to weather, it was just not warm enough to think about getting wet. But the restrooms nearby provided a changing stall if you get too wet, and there are lockers nearby to store your valuables and some extra dry clothing for you. The best theming in the park was in the Frontier area where the petting zoo is located. And I did leave out a lot of smaller attractions, but believe me, there's plenty for thrill seekers and non-thrill seekers alike. The petting zoo, you can take the train to get around that if you have allergies. That way you're not right by those animals. The train is only 2 stops, and it takes about the same amount of time to ride the train as it does to walk through it. So if you don't have allergies, you don't mind the animals, by all means walk through there. You probably be about the same amount of time as taking the train, unless the train is right there when you get to it. Now, if you have done all the coasters, or you don't want to do any of the coasters, and you just need a more relaxing day at the beach at Lake Erie, it's a great place to unwind, maybe build a sandcastle, listen to the screams of the folks who went to the park that day. It is right there. You go through the breakers. You don't even have to go through the breakers. There's a little path right by Cedar Point shores. The path will split off. Go to the left, it'll take you right along the beach. Go to the right, it'll take you out to the front of the breakers. So you can save a couple of steps if you go to the left there and not want to walk through the hotel at all. But that's where the Perkins and the TGI Fridays are located. So you may want to go to the hotel just to grab a bite to eat. There's several other restaurants that are outside of the park itself. All in all, if you're a thrill seeker or you just love roller coasters, this is a great place to visit. It can be done in a day if you need to, or just want to hit the park and leave. The food is much better here than it was at some parks. And unlike Kings Island, the drink machines worked correctly and did not run out of ice. So that was definitely a park issue, that we kept getting those flat sodas. But we had can coolers, drink coolers, whatever you want to call them. If we were closer, we might visit Cedar Point again. Right now, we're looking at Carowinds, maybe, or going back to Kings Island for our next trip. So we're not really sure which way we're going to go on that one, but we're still trying to make a decision. Carowinds would be nice because it's a new park. Kings Island would be nice because we know what to expect. So we're not really sure. We doubt we're going to make it all the way back up to Lake Erie because it is about an 8-hour drive for us. If I missed your favorite ride or you have tips on some hidden gems, please let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, and if so inclined, share this video. Check out our online store, make a purchase there, support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you down the road. Let's hit the road. Save my soul.